Three, two, one, live. Day three. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am C Mac. On the left of me, I have my brother. And on the right of me, I got the one, the only, Big Chris.
DJ Big Chris, the Grand Imperial Big Chris, aka the Walking Big Body.
This
Might have to
is
change that, huh?
Drive to the Driveway. We did it your way and try it our way. Now sit back and have some fun. Buckle your seatbelts and let's have a conversation. Let's go. Yo. Welcome, everybody. This is From the Drive to the Driveway. 4th season, episode 2. Praise Jesus Christ that we're back live and running. And well, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me us today. And I appreciate you. Welcome, everyone. My brothers from different mothers, my brother that I shared the womb with. You know what I mean? How's everybody doing?
Same time.
Hey, man.
Praise Jesus. You know, we can't give, first and foremost, we got to give it all to the one and only, the big Jesus Christ. You know, so why this podcast is live and running, and we're still here. And I just want to thank you to the Lord. And
there's no life without Jesus Christ. You heard?
Amen.
So, yo, tonight we were just at first off, I just want to say tonight our episode is about financial literacy. So, in our neighborhoods, and I thought it would be a great topic to talk about tonight. You know what I'm saying? I know, you know, me and the mayor Harvey, we've been talking a lot about our own boys and kids and this generation in general.
Yeah,
this generation in general. And I think it's like I said, I think it's a great topic to talk about because, man, the way I see how these guys are going today, I mean, it looks very scary for our future. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, first and foremost, another thing I wanted to talk about that we was talking about before you stepped on court. We was just talking about if you guys want to continue about the president just got, you know, convicted of I don't know what the charges was, but he got convicted for all 34 charges.
Who?
Saying President Trump.
Former President Trump convicted of 34 counts. Isn't that right, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, 34 felony counts dealing with fraud and fraudulently doctoring documents to alter the results of the 2020 presidential election, according to the Manhattan District Attorney. And this is unprecedented. You know, I'm a history teacher. Never in the history of the United States of America have we seen a former president go on criminal trial and be actually convicted of all counts, all 34 counts, felony counts. They're level E felonies, which are low-level felonies, but each count holds 4 years of imprisonment.
That's crazy.
So you multiply 4
times 34.
You got 132 years.
Wow.
That man ain't going to prison though, man.
That's what people are saying.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that there's nothing. They're not going to bring that people. If you look at history, I have never seen, and we spoke on it a little bit earlier. I've never seen anybody well off go to prison. The first one I ever seen, I never seen anybody well off go to prison for money, for money convictions.
Maybe
I've never seen him. I never seen him. Yeah, well, he was actually, that was a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So something like this, and I can't even like equate both of them because Madoff
Madoff
was a Madoff what they convicted Trump of was like the mayor said, was fraud and how it affected the outcome of the election. So all of that was engulfed all together, and that's what made it really difficult for him to beat that, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, all he had to do was beat one case. All he had to do was beat one count, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And they got him on all 34.
All 34.
They went in 34 deep and got all 34. So I'm not a lawman. All I know is that's 100. They're betting 1,000 on that one, and it would be a travesty to see that. But he still got followers, and that
they're not trying to hear none of that. And
Right.
not only that, he's the guy. He is pretty much, he does whatever he wants to do to begin with. It's for them to offer him probation, bro, after he's supposed to be serving 100 and something years in prison.
Yeah,
and they offered him probation. That's when
we don't know yet because the sentencing is
when is it?
July 11th.
The 11th of July, right?
Yeah, July 11th is the sentencing. So we don't know. Yeah, so we don't know if the judge is gonna adjudicate the decision and give him 10 years, 20 years, 6 months to a year probation. We don't know yet. And everybody's got their predictions out here, just like they had their predictions out here and didn't think that he was going to get convicted of any of those 34 counts.
Yeah.
People were saying that those 34 counts were fraudulent, they were made up.
Wow.
No pun intended, but Trump charges, and they were dead wrong. All these legal experts been for weeks weighing in on the trial before the actual jury, made their decision. I mean, it was a complex case, according to the CNN reporters, and they also said that his followers, he's created a cult, a political cult, they're calling it on CNN.
Wow.
Political cult.
Yes.
Meaning, like, no matter what happens, no matter what he says, what he doesn't say, no matter what the verdict is, no matter what trial, criminal case, because remember, this is the third trial he's lost.
Yep.
He lost the sexual whatever assault case to the woman that sued for millions of dollars. It was libel, actually. It was a civil case that this woman, this elderly woman, sued for something he allegedly done years ago, and then he won. Right. What's her name? Do anyone know?
No,
I forgot her name.
She won her case, the libel case, and got millions of dollars. Then the other civil case was the state attorney general, where she won, Letitia James, Attorney General James, $483 million.
That's the bag right there.
Right? She won. Then he had to get a bond and all this stuff for it. And this is the third case, but it's the first criminal case that's gone the full length of the trial. They had 12 jurors, I think it was like 5 women and 7 men or whatever, all New York City residents. And they were all vetted by the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney before they qualified. They had alternates as well. And they all came back unanimously with guilty verdicts for all 34 felony charges.
That's the part. That's the part right there. I don't think we can emphasize that word enough. Unanimous. Because when they told me it was 34, I'm like, there's no way he gets convicted on 34, all 34.
But he did.
And I'm looking at what he has done, to galvanize certain people to believe everything that he says, and again, I'm not a politician. Mr. Mayor is, of course, Mr. Mayor. It's just wild to see, you're still in kind of disbelief, and I really can't wait till the 11th of July, because I really want to see what they do and how people react, because it was tough January 6th a couple years ago.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
I've seen an individual tell me that the Democrats was accounting for the traffic that he was in that day. So and this is an individual with stable mind. Everybody ain't that stable.
No way.
So if a
Right.
stable individual can blame the traffic on a certain political party, the traffic, what do you think the ones that don't have it all can come up with? You know, I mean, and
Hence what Mayor said, that he has like a cult following. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna ride or die for him, man.
And that's the scary part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scary part, because if CNN is labeling his followers as a political cult, you know, you have these other examples of cults and people,
Facts.
you know, committing suicide because of what their cult leader,
Yeah.
that he heard from God and all this kind of stuff. You know, that's a really, really scary
Nah, it is.
proposition, you know, and
Yeah, it is.
no matter what, I mean, these literally convicted and guilty according to the court of law.
yeah.
And there's people still gonna ride with him and still
Yeah.
say
He should be in president.
he should still be the president. And it's like, are you really gonna vote for someone who was just convicted on 34 felony charges in a court of law? And it's like, wow, if that ever happens and it was to ever go through, now, and it was this Republican senator, I don't know who he was, but he said at some point, we all, no matter what your political party is and affiliations are, at some point we have to protect our American democracy and we got to protect our American institutions. And the courts that's part of the American institution.
Yeah. And but how does this, you know, since we talk about financial literacy today, does him being charged, does that hurt America's financial, you know, like, how can I say, like our like I said, like the
economy?
Yes, the economy, you know, stuff
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah, it does.
It definitely does, because when we talk about money, banking, and finance,
Yeah.
that's the economy. When we talk about the circular flow of money in our country,
Yeah.
some of that is predicated upon, you know, the confidence that the American people as a whole have in our American institutions, which include our banks, our banking institutions, and our businesses, and Wall Street, and our financial institutions, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at the history. Here we go back to the history. When we look at the history lesson of the stock market crash, which was October 29th, 1929,
Yes,
which
sir.
they called it a Black Tuesday because it was on a Tuesday. When we look at the stock market crash and what led up to the stock market crash, speculation, people speculating that we were going to go into a Great Depression and that the economy was, you know, on a downward spiral and all this stuff, just speculating that, just saying that,
Yeah.
more of a chance of that stock market crashing. Now, there were other factors which people were buying stock on margin. We're talking about money, banking, finance. You know, we talk about stocks and bonds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our banking institutions, people were buying stock on margin, which means that they were taking out loans from banks.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the money to purchase it, and they were buying stocks, not having the cash to buy. That was the second reason why the stock market crashed.
Yeah.
And then the third reason was because overproduction on farms, right? When you talk about overproduction on farms, that means that the farms in America were not selling the products that they were harvesting to the point where we got a surplus. And we have a surplus, that means you're going to have low demand, low prices, and you're going to have high supplies, which is a surplus, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, someone wanted to jump in on that.
Well, this is the part where I learn in layman's terms. My friend, our layman's terms, the two words layman's terms are my friend. But I kind of get the gist of what you're saying. Is if when that did happen, where let's say you got 100 bushels of corn, you only sell 4, You got 96 bushels as a surplus, but here you got harvest coming around again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So how you gonna harvest?
Yeah.
You got a 95% surplus. You got to harvest, and you can't even. What is it called? You can't even project what you're gonna sell and how you're gonna sell it if your surplus is so high. And now you're doubling up. Now your surplus is almost doubled. You're still not selling. So in a 24-month span, your surplus is through the window. You can't pay your workers because you're not selling any of what they picked. They can't eat unless they're eating the corn that they just picked. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
what I get from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like all right, let's talk about sneakers. Let's use the sneaker analogy because I know my brother Matt.
Mm-hmm.
He's an expert at sneakers and Jordans and all that.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
if
try my
Jordan,
best to be.
huh?
I try my best to be.
No question.
You will.
You're aficionado. You're the Jordan aficionado.
I try. Hey, I try. You feel me?
Give my man Prosper props is due because he schooled me on all the numbers
Hey,
and
excuse me on everything, man.
Yo, come on. Hey.
the thing about Jordans, right? Michael
Yes, sir.
Jordan sneakers are in such high demand.
Always.
When we look at the laws of supply and demands, when demand is up,
Yeah.
supplies are down,
Yes, sir.
right? Which is an inverse relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Demand is up, supplies are down, prices go what? Up. Because price and demand go together. If
Yes, sir.
demand goes up, prices go up. If demand goes down, prices go down,
Yeah.
right? And when demand goes up, supplies go down. That means you have a shortage instead of a surplus, right?
Okay.
So if you have a shortage now, like my man Mac always say, today's prices ain't tomorrow's prices,
That's right.
because
Right.
the demand is up.
All day.
Everybody want to buy Jordans.
That's a fact.
So the Jordans might have cost the wholesaler or the person that's buying the Jordans to sell, it might have cost them $300 a pair. But because demand is so high,
Yes, sir. Let's get that 800.
you could get that 800. You could triple that, right? Because demand is up, supplies are down, and it's not a surplus; it's a shortage. So when we look at overproduction of anything, that means that demand is at an all-time low. If you're overproducing on these farms, and Martin Luther King talked about it. If you go to YouTube, because we pulled it up today, Martin King has an off-scripted moment in a church just before he was assassinated in 1968, and he says that he's giving a speech, and what you would type in YouTube is MLK speech on reparations, right?
Yes,
He
sir.
talks about how the government, supported the white peasantry class in America by giving away millions of acres of land. He's talking about the Homestead Act of 1862, where they were settling the westward territory, giving millions and millions of acres of land and all that.
Everybody to go out there.
Yeah, everybody go out there because they had already pushed the Native Americans off onto reservations with the Indian Removal Act of 1830. So by 1862, while we're in the Civil War and everybody's focused on the Civil War, the government was giving away millions of acres of land.
That's a fact. And I learned that pretty much from Yellowstone. Because that's back when Sacagawea and all them was trying to show them what was it called again? I forget. To go to Oregon, it was like
the Oregon Trail. Yeah,
Oregon Trail.
And pushing them off to the farm, onto reservations and taking their land. And so when that was happening, Martin King talks about they gave away millions of acres of land to the white peasantry class, and then they built land grant colleges, which are these universities to show those farmers how to farm those lands and how to mechanize those lands, which means use machinery to farm. And then he says these universities were paid by the government to teach them how to farm once they gave them the acres of land.
Yeah.
And then he said, and then you tell the black man to lift himself up from his own bootstrap. And he says it's a cruel jest to tell a bootless man to lift him own self up from his bootstraps when he don't have any boots. And so King goes into that, and he says that's why the next time we go to Washington D.C., because he had already went in 1963 with the March on Washington,
Yeah.
250,000 people.
Yep.
But when 68 comes, he said, we coming back to Washington to get our check. And he's talking about reparations, right?
Yeah.
So he talks about, one of the things, this is the whole point of bringing it up,
Yeah.
the overproduction on farms. He says that the government pays these farmers a subsidy not to farm so that they don't create overproduction.
Oh.
So they got free land to settle the Western Territory with the Homestead Act. They built land colleges to teach them how to farm. So if you go to SUNY Plattsburgh, Coble Skills, they got farm schools.
Yeah.
You go out to Wisconsin, they got university at Wisconsin. They got a whole department on agriculture.
I was just about to say agriculture. Yeah.
Right? And the government built these colleges to teach these farmers how to farm. And then now and today, so they avoid overproduction of the farms, whether it's a milk farm, whether it's whatever, a corn farm or tobacco farm, whatever, they pay them subsidies every month. That's a welfare check to not farm so that we don't have overproduction in our farms, which led to the Great Depression.
Okay, so here's the thing too. Like everything you said is on point. The way I look at it is, if we were able to do that, if the government was able to pay farmers not to farm, how is there ever one hungry mouth
in the world
in the United States of America?
Yep, I agree with that too.
Exactly. Why is there food insecurities? You're right.
How is there ever? If a vegetarian, a vegan can live off natural proteins, grains, and vegetables, how can we not feed? How can there ever be anybody hungry?
That's true.
Because an individual that's starving ain't picky. The picky ones are the ones that can make the choice. If you don't have nothing and somebody give you a big bowl of salad with your proper protein, your avocados and all that, everything in excess, how is there one person hungry? And what do people that have eaten do better?
I agree.
They work.
I agree.
They think better. They feel better. Yep. Your morale is up when you've eaten. When you've eaten every day.
Yeah, it's
you think about. I mean, I won't get too far off, but if you think about the individuals that went to school, or you may have went to school hungry, wasn't your best day. Your best days is when you had that breakfast, you had some nourishment in the morning, you had your proper fill of liquids and fluids and vitamins and all of that. So how can we have one hungry person, but yet can slow down surplus of edible food?
Yeah,
right.
You can't
pay those farmers to not grow the food. It's called a farm subsidy, and they're doing it. And then they when they start talking about welfare checks and welfare recipients and EBT cards, they
put us in the forefront of that.
They make it look like it's the blacks,
nah, dog,
Latinos, but they're getting a welfare check on these farms.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of farms in America, they get a monthly check not to grow, and that subsidy check is so that there's no overproduction on farms. It ties back into the circular flow of money, ties back into the economic elements, that we were talking about, money, banking, and finance, and so that's at the macro level when you look at the government's involvement. Now, when we look at what has happened, if America allows a convicted felon to become president of the United States of America, all the American institutions, including our banking institutions, including our financial institutions like the stock market, Wall Street, all those financial markets, the confidence in all of that can very well take a downward spiral, because you now have someone who has been proven in a court of law to be guilty.
Guilty.
Yeah, fine.
The court system becomes a joke. Now the criminal justice system becomes a joke.
Yeah, it's a complete joke. It would be a complete joke. It's a complete joke. It would be a complete joke. I could say it 40 times, and I don't think anybody that
hey, yo, Big
doesn't
Chris, you
pay
sound like a
attention.
DJ when you were saying that.
It's just it becomes a complete joke. It's you do the same. How can if I know an individual that just got evicted,
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
he got evicted last August, he's getting evicted in July. Now I don't know if he's out of work. I don't know if he mismanages his money. I don't know if he's addicted to anything. I don't know what's going on. But what I can tell you for free is that my confidence that he will pay me moving into my home is real low, because something's going on that he's not being able to upkeep what's going on, into two cases. So you have America, you have a president that did everything he did, said everything he said for 4 years. You got him out of there. 3-4 years later, you convict him of 34 felonies, and then you go ahead and you put him back in office.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the government was already teeter-tottering on being the dunce in the corner with other countries, right?
Yes.
Sir.
What about the people? So you telling me you have a democracy where you can decide who goes in, and you still pick this dude? Go ahead. We're gonna pick him again. So
Well,
now it's us. We travel abroad. Another
That's
Americans,
America.
they
That's
dumb over there.
America.
that's that cult following, though. It's the political cult following.
That's our America.
That's
Yeah,
what
but
Harvey's saying, though.
But to your point, Big Chris, we become a joke on the global stage.
1000%.
How is other countries going to look at it? And we're part of the G7. We're part of the G7, which is the global 7 countries that come together every so many years to make critical, decisions about what's going on in the world. A lot of what goes on in this world is in movies. I watch a lot of movies, so I'll always reference movies. If you follow the podcast, you'll hear me reference movies, because there's a lot of truth in these fictitious stories.
Of course.
When you have somebody you've been following for the first hour of the movie, and all of a sudden he's in the boardroom, and there's 18 people around him, and the whole board has voted him off the board. That's where we're headed as a nation. Like, they getting money over there, they taking care of their sick, they feeding people. We still sitting here buying watches and bracelets and glasses and hats.
Yes, sir.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And then we get to the boardroom, and where we used to sit at the head of the table, we down in seat 14.
Yes, sir.
Your vote ain't gonna have that much weight at the big table if we continue to do what we're doing. And that's somebody I ain't never ran for nothing.
But honestly, that's why, speaking about it, I think it's important to talk about financial literacy, man, because even when the reference going back to what Mayor Harvey said about even the sneakers, right now, that's kind of to make it, to equate it with what you're saying about how the agriculture is up and down, brother. But right now, my brothers, Big Chris, my twin brother, we all know, because we are in the sneaker business.
Yeah.
So right now, what you saying is that surplus.
Yeah.
Yo, right now, that big ginormous conglomerate, Nike, they're no joke right now. They're overproducing now because they feel that our profit margin
too high.
We're getting,
It's too high.
They're trying to wipe out the reseller, bro.
Right.
They're trying to wipe us out big time.
Heck yeah. If you notice, you can go to the mall right now and get a pair of Jordans with no problem. In your size.
It used to be like that. It used to be
when we were young. Yes.
And I remember when Big Chris, I remember this when I first found out that was my big cousin. This was back in 1993 when he worked in Athlete's Foot.
Right.
I remember seeing him in there, and he turned around. I remember it like it was yesterday. Newburgh Mall.
Oh, okay.
I remember it like it was yesterday. He turned around. He's like, "Yo, you my little cousin, right?" and I was like, to me, not to get off the story, but I was like, I felt like, yo, that's my big cousin. I was 16 years old, and and yo, and then Big Chris was like, yo, and Big Chris was DJ Big Chris. So I was like, dang, this dude know me. Like I was like, yo, and to me, he was like one of like a star. Like I felt like he was a star. Him, and all of that. So when he said he was like, what happened?
Mr. Mayor, funny story about that store.
Yeah.
When I first started over there, I was doing it because I didn't want child support to come at me. I needed a regular job, make a little bit of money.
Right.
So I'm out there working maybe my third week. And I thought to myself, there's a lot of kids that come to the mall.
Right.
Let me take a bag of tapes with me. The little white dude came in and I said, yo, I got a new Big Chris. He said, you don't know nothing about no Big Chris tape. Is it real? Is it a real one? I looked at him. I'm like, yo, dude, I'm Big Chris. He's like, nah, get out of here, man. I'm not buying that. He didn't buy the tape.
Wow.
He thought I was a fraud because I was working in Athlete's Foot. Everybody got to do it. He really didn't buy that. He walked out. He didn't buy sneakers or nothing. He was
crazy.
He was furious that I tried to sell him a fake Big Chris tape, and I'm actually Big Chris. But the supply and demand as far as Jordans.
Yeah.
When you guys brought it up, I thought to myself, a few years back when I started selling with Kurt and learning the game, it was very difficult to get good reps. That's because the company was on top of it.
Right.
Because they didn't, they didn't want the infringement. Now, I'm not saying that they know about it, they let it go, or I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is that there is less resistance to get reps than there was 4 years ago.
Yep.
I can give me a good pair of reps in 6 days, where it used to take 3 weeks. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
2 months.
Yes, sir.
2 months.
Today's Thursday. I'll have them by next weekend.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And
So they must be on.
Exactly. I'm not at privy to say what's going on.
Right.
But that's it's weird, and that has a lot to do with supply and demand.
Yes,
because they know the demand is so high.
Yes, sir.
They know that they made it that way.
Yes,
they made it that way by making sure that the reps were not readily available, especially in the malls. Man, I would go to the mall just a year ago, and you couldn't find one pair of Jordans in the malls.
That's for them, but honestly, that's like within the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't everything was like you waiting online. You was getting it online from the, I don't want to give them too much press because we not getting paid for it. They got to pay us if we gonna, you know what I mean? But
that's why I've been trying for about a year or so to get in the mayor's ears. Because remember I pulled you to the side. We're gonna do something, man, because that's what is now. If you really want to say financial literacy, now if you look at everything and how everything's going, school needs to be changed, what they are teaching. Because now, since the pandemic, everybody's moving forward with their own their own stuff and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be teaching in the schools.
Kids,
is
exactly.
these kids. Because just look, they all want to get fly. How about make your own and start getting to that real money and start getting your credit right? That's what they need to start doing and putting into the now that's financial literacy. You put that in the school. Ain't nobody trying to hear about Chris Columbus and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? Like kick it to the curb, man. This is why we over here struggling. You know what I mean? So
what I do is
they don't want to talk about that. You know what I mean?
What I do with my history class, I call it gumbo soup.
Yes, sir. Yes,
y'all know about gumbo?
Yeah, I know about gumbo. I heard it was really good.
At New Orleans.
I know it all starts with the roof, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what I do that when I teach, you know what I mean? Every time I can talk about money, banking, and finance, credit, land ownership, real estate, life insurance,
Yes,
right?
Sir.
Understanding FICO scores, and people don't know, again, going back to history, when you look at the history of the FICO score, man, FICO scores really didn't exist before the 80s.
Word, didn't know that.
FICO score came in, and from my reading and recollection, it comes in about the late 80s, the mid to late 80s. Okay, when I was a kid in 4th grade, 5th grade, middle school, you know, I was born in 72, so by 82, I'm already 10 years old. So that means I'm already in 5th grade by 82. There was no FICO score.
I don't
Okay.
remember having one.
And we can Google when did FICO scores become a thing in America? And this is the thing. My mother's brother, oldest brother, he was an IBM, you know. Now there's stories about IBM when they came in the 1960s. They wanted to come to Newburgh, but then there's some millionaires that got involved with the city government and didn't allow the IBM corporation to come to Newburgh. Those are the rumors I hear in the walls of City Hall, right? And that IBM went to town of Poughkeepsie, and that's actually what made Poughkeepsie financially and economically stronger than what we saw here in Newburgh. Because when I came here in Newburgh for the first time in like 87, 88, 89 as a visitor, as a high school kid that, you know, visit some friends over here, I saw more abject poverty in the city of Newburgh than we saw in Poughkeepsie. Now, Poughkeepsie had poverty, don't get it twisted, but it wasn't as deep as it was in Newburgh because the industry wasn't here. And I know church women that worked in that went to Baptist Temple and Ebenezer, and they worked at IBM in Fishkill and Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie is the main branch. Poughkeepsie still is the main hub because they're getting ready to go into microchips. So my point in saying that is my uncle worked at IBM for like 30 years. He was from the South. He only had like an 8th grade education, but somehow he knew somebody and he got into where he could test the chips or whatever in the manufacturing part. And then anyway, he lived in Spack and Kill. His kids which were my first cousins, they all went to Spack and Kill schools. And it was like Spack and Kill, there is no Spack and Kill. Spack and Kill High School is in the town of Poughkeepsie. Red Oaks Mill, 376.
Yeah.
Right behind Route 9. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
right over there.
Right over there. So the point of the matter is IBM, if you worked at IBM had their own credit union. When my uncle got ready for a new car, all he had to do was sign a form, show him his, you know, they already had his pay stubs, pull it right up. He could get the new car, and they would tell him how much the payments were, what was interest, what payments, and what part went to the principal balance, which is your amortization. They call that the amortization rate. So when you make a monthly payment, a percentage of it goes to interest, and then a portion of it goes to the principal balance until all of it's paid off. And so, and then when he bought a house out in Spack and Kill or out of Poughkeepsie, really. And we were all, because we lived in the projects, my mom and all her kids, we all lived in Charles Street projects. So we were like excited that our Uncle William, who worked at IBM, got a house. He didn't have no FICO score. All he had to do, like he did with the car loan, go to the bank. Go to the credit union. Yeah. How long has he been employed? It pulls right up on the system. Oh, he's been employed with us 15 years. Oh, he's been employed as a line worker for 20 years. This is what he makes every week. This is what he makes every month. Okay, he qualifies. It was that simple. It was very simple. How long you do your job? How much do you make? How much can you afford? It was no FICO score, guys.
And with relations, Spack and Kill. So people that don't know, Spack and Kill is like a Bombville.
Yes.
To the city of Newburgh, like New Windsor. It's Spack and Kill is Poughkeepsie, but it's like you go a certain distance from the city, you in Spack and Kill.
Right.
You could live across the street and go to PHS. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And your man do something different. It was crazy. And I worked at IBM, and I remember when I was in high school, I remember we all got our checks Monday when we came to work, and you walk down the hall to the credit union, IBM, which was an office and a door to have top opened up. You signed your check, showed them your IBM ID, they gave you all your cash.
See? Or you could deposit it.
It wasn't no whole big deal back then. I don't remember. I don't remember direct deposit yet either. Like fresh out of high school, you had to go get that money. So if you was, I know cats in my department that was pulling in 1,900
Right.
a week.
Wow.
Engineers. I was in safety engineering as a
Good
senior.
money. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're talking 83. No, 85.
That's
19
good money. 85.
85, man. What? Dude, I was doing $147 a week. I was 17. I was in high school. They wanted me to go off for the basketball team. I said, maybe next year. You're a senior. That's what I mean. I'm getting ready to take this 600 a month and keep it moving. You know? But that you talk about a 17-year-old in 85, you know, you're doing $600-700 a month.
Right.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Dude, if see, the thing was I was temp because I was in high school. I was in what they call the Voc educational program back then.
Right.
I don't know if they still do that.
Yeah, they call it something different. It's CTE now, career technical education now. But
okay, so yeah, I went over there, and the only reason why I couldn't get a loan, even for $300, was because my term was until June whatever.
All right.
It was on the they pulled me up. Well,
you're not full time.
You're finished on June whatever last day of school. That's when I was done.
Yeah,
right.
You know, so I understand.
But you were full time.
Oh yeah, you got to be good. Even when I went back to the 2-year temp, they knew that if I started in 89, that in 91 I'd be done. So you gonna get a 12-month loan?
Right. No.
$100 for and have to pay back 100 every month. Nah, just save your money.
Yeah,
right. You know, if they did that kind of thing now, where based on your salary, and I don't know where, if that was the case, because I've been working since 14, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So whenever the FICA came out, I should have been at 830.
89.
You know, if the
89.
FICA came out in 89, I should have been at 830.
You looked it up.
83,
Yes,
84, 85, 86, 87. I worked for 6 straight
Right.
years. I worked in college and everything. I should have had, okay, Mr. McAllister, you're going to start at 850. Here you go.
And I'm glad.
Then I could blame my parents on not doing the right thing to keep me straight up here, you know?
Now, here's my theory. And you know, it's a conspiracy theory. So there's no evidence behind it.
Real quick before you say it, man. I wanted to give the FICO score was first introduced in 89 by FICO, then called Fair, Isaac and Company. The FICO model is used by the vast majority of banks and credit grantors. And it is based on consumer credit files for 3 national credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion.
So I started working at 14. But see, my dad had grocery stores, so I was working when I was able to walk and talk. But I'm saying getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
My dad didn't give us a paycheck. He gave us cash every week, and it was like an allowance. And we still had to work in them grocery stores.
Yeah.
The hot dog trucks. But officially, because it's on my Social Security, Big Chris, it's on my Social Security. When you could go to the Social Security website and pull up your work history, since they've been pulling money out of your check ever since I was 14. And that was 1980, 84, 85. And I know FICO score doesn't come to the late 80s. And you know, Mac just confirmed that 1989. So that's a relative, man. I'll tell you exactly what's going on in 89. 1989 was when those Central Parks 5 got arrested. Is it 6 or 5? Remember
Well,
5. There's 5 of them.
5 got arrested, and that was 1989 because they was in the 11th grade and so was I. I was 6 years old in 89. They was 16 years old. Well, the oldest one, and he's the one that went straight to Rikers and then went straight to the state penitentiary.
Yeah.
The oldest fella of the 5, and then the other 4 went to juvie until they aged out of juvie, and then they went to state penitentiary. But the point is, I remember in 1989, Central Park 5 guys were convicted, and it was wrong. Obviously, we found out it was wrongfully conviction. 1989 was when that San Francisco Bay Bridge collapsed. I don't know if y'all remember that.
I thought what was it? 19 what?
1989 when the FICO score thing
I
came.
think I remember that.
So 89 was the FICO score. 89 was the Central Park 5. 89, because my junior year in high school, was when that San Francisco Bay Bridge
I think
collapsed.
I remember that.
People were driving on it and drove into the Bay River, and because I was just getting ready to get my license, and I couldn't drive over bridges because of that.
Because of what had happened.
People drove into the river, like the bridge collapsed in the middle,
Yeah,
Um,
I think I remember that.
Hey, it's funny you brought up the Central Park Five. I'm gonna tell you this, and you guys, I mean, you can believe me or not. Hey, you know I don't embellish. I digress. Listen, so remember when the movie came out or the series on Netflix?
Yeah, I remember.
When that came out and I was watching it,
Yeah.
I remembered it was me, and I'm not gonna say any names of dudes that I was with.
Yeah.
We used to get on the train and go to New York.
Right.
And that was when dust was regular dust. Now I didn't smoke dust, I
Right.
smoked weed back then.
Right.
So they went down to get some dust and they were mixing it. And when I tell you this is 1989, we was outside of Central Park smoking as a group of about 12 or 13 cats.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the proximity of where I was in the year I was in that area. We very well, whatever happened, we could have been there on that day at that time, running and caught up in the same nonsense.
Yep, that's a
as
fact.
those guys.
Wow.
And I didn't realize where I had been and what God had gotten me through until that series came out, because
Yes,
I used
sir.
to be in a lot of weird places for no reason.
Downtown.
I should have
Right.
never been on a trip because I wasn't smoking dust.
Right.
What kind of romanticizing was I doing with being on a train for 2.5 hours just to go watch somebody get high and then come back? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's every time you say
You was
something,
covered, man. You was covered.
hey, I got stories for days, man. I
Yeah,
can go
because
home.
it's the same thing for me, Chris, because even though I was in Poughkeepsie and I'm at the Poughkeepsie High School at the time, I wasn't in Central Park, but I just imagined myself in my mind, being African American and a young man at the same age as the oldest guy. I forget his name, man.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah,
Wise. I think his name was Wise.
Yeah.
I forget.
Can you imagine it? Can you imagine that though?
And I put myself in those shoes, man.
Every
'Cause
time.
I'm like, I was that age. I was 16 in 89 with the guy that went to Rikers, directly to Rikers. Then he went right to the state penitentiary, because at that time, to be convicted as an adult, you only had to be 16.
Hmm.
And Wise was 16.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, yo, that could have been me. So I remember 89 because of the Central Park Five, the Bay Bridge collapsing, and then guess what happens a year later regarding IBM?
Shuts down.
1999, they lay off thousands of workers. And one of my friends, she was a cheerleader in high school. Her father jumped off the Newburgh Beacon Bridge, bro.
That's crazy.
1990. Because we were
Yeah.
seniors.
You
Huh?
can't imagine. You can imagine what prompted him to do that. See, I can never jump off no bridge. I'm scared of heights.
Me
I can
too.
never grab no gun. I can't take my life because of my religious beliefs.
Right.
And I've never been in a situation so tough that I don't trust in God.
Amen.
But I can
Hallelujah.
understand it. I can
Hallelujah.
understand an individual.
Man.
Praise Jesus Christ.
If they let him go on Friday, he
Hallelujah.
very well could have signed a mortgage on his house on Monday
Yep.
and taken care of something. His wife could have been going through something that was breaking him already. Anything could have been happening. He could have had another child that was dependent on him, that was getting ready to go to school, and now he doesn't have that career.
Well, that's what happens when you put faith into that almighty dollar, man, and
Yeah.
not Jesus Christ.
That's
You
the
know what I'm
point. That's the
saying?
point.
You know
You
what
have
I'm
to
saying?
be have to be literate of what you're doing financially, but you do have to believe and have faith.
Yeah, because again, the Lord says you can't serve two masters. So
Not
that's
two.
what happened. So that's what happened. He
Right.
he served the wrong master. No disrespect. God bless him. You know what I'm saying, and all that good stuff.
But
But go ahead.
But going to your next financial literacy element, so you got the FICA score, which
Yeah.
goes all the way up to 850, and it doesn't seem like anyone. It was created in 1989. It seems like nobody starts at 850 and work their way. And then the second element is less than 1,000 people. Hold on, let me get it right. 85% of the people in America who are adults,
Yes, sir.
85% have less than $1,000 in their savings account.
That's crazy.
85%.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. And there's a
Even that's including today.
today.
What?
85% of American adults don't have $1,000 in their savings account, according to data and statistics. And there's this guy who was in prison, and he does a TED talk.
Yep.
Let him do a TED talk, and he was incarcerated, and he was talking about how he was from Brooklyn, how he was robbing and stealing and boosting and all that kind of stuff. Then he got convicted for like a 20-year bid, and so he couldn't read. He was 16 years old when he first got convicted, and at the time that he did this TED talk, I think he was like, he had already done 15 years out of the 20, and so he was what, 20, I don't know, 15 plus 15, so he was like 30 years old. And yeah, and he had probably like 5 more years before he go before the parole board. And anyway, he was talking about how he couldn't read when he was a 16-year-old, and he had to learn how to read in prison, and he was using words on sticky cards, and he was saying CAT, cat. And when someone opened up the world of reading and literacy to him, he began to learn how to read. And then he talked about money, banking, and finance, because what he would do was he would read the stock market and the Wall Street Journal every day once he started to learn how to read. And he was the one talking about the importance of having a savings account, how less than, he said, 85% of Americans who are outside, not in prison, but outside, not behind the wall, they don't have $1,000 in their savings account. And then he said that they don't know how to read stocks. They don't know how to read, the opening stock prices, the closing, the yield, and all those kind of things. Don't understand nothing about stocks and bonds. And he was going through that and talking about how and why investments are important, because people like Warren Buffett. I don't know if y'all know who Warren Buffett is.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
One of the richest men in America.
Yeah.
Yes.
He owns a corporation known as Berkshire Hathaway.
That's the real estate.
Real estate, yeah. And they own other industries. And what he did was, when he was a young boy growing up in, I want to say, the state of Washington, he said he had a paper route, and he bought for his first real estate property. It was 40 acres of land, and he bought it when he was 12 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
12
years old, Warren Buffett, with his father, showed him how to purchase real estate. And he bought his first real estate property at 12 from a paper route, and it was 40 acres of land.
Yeah.
You see there? I'm going to interject there with the key word in that statement, which is probably subject for another talk. Warren Buffett father showed him.
Yep.
And that's all. That's as far as you have to go.
Yeah.
That's right.
When your father shows you, you kind of suck that information. That information doesn't bounce off of you. There are a lot of things that my father did, but there are also a lot of things that he showed me that are still stuck with me. Now how he abused himself and all of that, that's different. But when we pass down financial literacy, it continues and continues and continues. Now, I don't know if any of us, if every person that's financially literate becomes wealthy, but as long as you're literate, you're better off than
sustaining. Not. Exactly. You can sustain.
Yeah. Right. That's the thing. And that just flowed out and caught me right there. But we just said Buffett's one of the richest individuals on the planet, right?
Right, in America and around the world. Yeah.
And when he bought his first
house, property,
his father showed him.
Yep.
sir.
He was 12 years old.
Yes.
sir.
Right.
You understand? You understand how deep that is? That's
Yeah.
that's
And
But
mother-
look,
That's why it's important for us to have this conversation and for your viewing audience to know the importance of money, banking, and finance, credit score, FICO score. It didn't exist until 1989.
Yep.
And then it's important to understand how to read the stock market, how important it is to have a savings account. Then you bump up to life insurance and knowing that there's two types of life insurance. You got term life, which terms out, and you got whole life.
Yep.
Whole life is the one I advocate for because some people will try to argue the other way. But whole life insurance is an insurance policy that builds equity over time, and it never terms out. It exists for your entire whole life, and you can borrow against the equity as long as you're living. And then when you leave this earth and you take your last breath, Lord Jesus Christ calls you home. Now your family, who are your beneficiaries, can get that life insurance, whole life insurance policy, whether it's 100,000, 200,000, and hopefully take that money and invest it in real estate.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be sustainable. Now there's a new thing, and then I'll give it back to you fellas. There's a new thing called the HELOC.
Trust.
And this HELOC is dealing with a trust,
Yep.
creating a trust company for your family.
Yep.
And the trust buying whole life insurance policies for each one of your kids and you and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then when somebody expires and they're called home to the Lord Jesus Christ,
Hallelujah.
then that insurance policy comes back into the big pot, which is the trust company. And that trust builds money,
of course,
liquid capital from that. And then it also invests. If it invests in the market, the stock market or whatever, mutual funds, whatever it is, those investments will bring back dividends to the trust. And if it gets to a certain level, that trust can pay each member that's in the trust a monthly salary.
Hence, trust fund babies. That's what see, we as black people, we don't do things like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But this is what it's really about when you can leave your kids something. You know what I'm saying? But now we can go back to why we originally started talking about doing this episode.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do when you are that father and you sharing this with your kids, giving them the cheat code? I know my brother and I talk about this all the time, but they don't listen, and that's why I wanted to do this episode. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the simple fact, like that you giving your offspring, which is your children, you giving them all the things, and all, like especially what it was hard for us growing up. We never got that. I know my brother and I never got that taught to us. But praise Jesus Christ that he put us. He had us growing up, and we were just like sponges. We would get certain things here and there from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And we took the good. You know, we was caught up. You know, we ain't going to talk, you know, but we took that, you know, whatever we learned, and I feel like that's why we are, you know, we decent today. But like Big said, he can continuously hear what even though his dad ain't here, but he continuously remembers like what he got taught. I can remember a lot of what my father taught us, but it was never really like financial stability or anything like that, as far as when it comes to him actually sitting down explaining money and everything to us. But he always let us know how important education was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So education to me was his financial literacy that he could have gave to us, and he pressed that issue with us. But I feel like we, you know, my brother and I, you know, and a lot of us black brothers today. I feel a lot of us don't. It's a good percentage of us that really have it. And that's probably, I know it's not, and again, I'm not going to say like a lot of us are in our kids' life, because today we are. There's a lot of us in our kids' life today.
Yep.
And
Today,
and we take pride in that. So what I'm saying is that, like, these guys, this generation here, they don't know what they got, man. They got the cheat code right there. And I'm kind of concerned. I'm concerned for the next 10, 15 years, man, because again, where we work at, we can actually see. And these guys a lot of them don't have a clue, man, about and the thing is, we started talking about it today, like everything is being handed to these guys, man.
Right.
Hand over foot, like everything is being handed. And they're not taking it, and they're not taking like heed of it. And I get it that they're kids, but come on, man. When you're in high school, you trying to transition into a young adult. And they're not, and they're not understanding how important like the educational part is, and how important it is to get to graduate, to come out of there and get themselves a decent job that they could be a part of the middle class. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of these kids don't want that, man. And it's kind of sad because they don't have a clue, one, and a lot of them are lazy, and it goes back to that entitlement stage. You know what I'm saying? They do not want to real quick, they just don't want to take heed, man, this generation. So I don't know where the economy is going to be about time they touch down, man. Because I see it every day. And like I said, even in my own home, I'm trying to teach teach men, my boys, to be men. But a lot of times, man, they running from it, man. So I really don't know what more can you do when you're trying to give them all the jewels and everything, and they're not accepting it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got to remember too, before we bounce, that it's definitely going to be financial literacy. They need that, because you telling them all of this stuff, and they don't, like you said, they do not have a clue, man. So I just look at it. I speak it every day where I work at. They look at me like with two heads. So if we don't get them right now, hey, just remember this. That's supposed to be our future.
Yeah,
right?
but what if you are? Yeah, but what if you do get them? No, you get them. But what if they don't? Because a lot of them do not listen. And you and I talk about, but Harvey and I talk about this. Mayor Harvey and I talk about this every day too. Well, his kid, my kid, your kid. You know what I'm saying? It just goes in one ear out the other. But then they come into us with their hands out. Hey, Dad, can you do this? Can you do this? And you're like, I just told you how to do A, B, C, and D. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what we got to do is we have to go back to the basics, and let's go back to, and I know we running short on time, but we got to be.
Before you finish, hold that thought. We are never running out of time because Kurt's in control.
Yes,
go ahead.
Okay, cool. So we gotta, you know how we say, yo, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yep.
So we gotta be the living, breathing examples of what we want our children to be, because if they walk like a duck, quack like a duck, it's a duck. If we show them it through examples, like we're living examples, and it goes back to the basics. It goes back to knowing and understanding how the FICO score works when it was created in 1989. We got to know and understand how to have savings, right? Because again, 85% of the American working adults don't have $1,000 or more in their savings account. Those are some of the basics. The other thing is making sure that we have a living will. Making sure that we have life insurance policies that a whole life, taking them out on the kids, because it's something that I still have to do, taking out whole life insurance on the kids so that those life insurance policies can build equity while they're in their youth. So by the time they turn 18 or 21 or 25, you could turn over that life insurance policy to them and it has equity already built up in it over time. So God forbid they run out of money and they need to borrow against it, they have something, and or taking it up to a step higher after we get the living will done, after we make sure we got our life insurance, after we make sure we got savings account, after over $1,000, making sure that we know and understand FICO scores and credit and how to win at that game. Then we're living examples, and then we can break that down to them. And then if you want to go to the higher level, understanding what the HELOC is, because we can Google that. That's one of the things about living in the information age. I could sit here all night and watch YouTube on financial literacy and educate myself, so that, you know, we can't continue to say, oh, my father didn't teach me, because my father didn't. And he, rest in peace, my dad died, 4 years ago. He was 88 years old, and he and I had this conversation, and he said, yeah, no one taught him. So my father didn't own real estate, as far as I know. His sisters did. He said he helped pay for his sisters' homes in Ohio, because my dad was from Akron, Ohio. But when my father became elderly, who was also a Korean War veteran, and he couldn't take care of himself, he lived with me for the last few years of his life, and all he was getting was a Social Security check, and it was like $1,100 a month. It wasn't even at a high level, because my father was always an entrepreneur, but he didn't know and understand money, banking, finance. He didn't have money saved away. He helped his sisters, with money when he was making big money with the grocery stores. He was sending them money so they can buy their property. Now, when he became elderly, okay, I had to take him in, and I became power of attorney. I became his health proxy, and he was getting $1,100 a month, man. Yeah. Then I figured out my father was deaf in one ear, only had 40% hearing in the other, and it was service related, because he was a part of an engineer regiment in Germany during the Korean War, and he was using those jackhammers, building roads and bridges, and they didn't have the equipment in the 1950s during the Korean War. So my father was able to get another $1,900 a month on top of his $1,100, which is his Social Security. So, and then he died like 5 or 6 months after we got that money locked in, coming in from the U.S. military, because his hearing loss, which is tinnitus, was service related to when he served in the military. Yeah. So my point in all that is, if we create a trust company, if we own a house, sell the property to the trust.
Yep, that's how you do it.
Now it's protected, and now it's in the family, and in that trust, now you got this HELOC thing, which is where you're buying insurance policies. The trust company's buying the insurance policies, paying the monthly premium, and then when someone, God forbid, passes away, whatever that policy is, it goes dumped back into the trust company, and then there's money, there's liquidity in that trust, and then is able to invest in the stock market, invest in things. That's where whoever's in the family that's a part of that trust, now they can get like a monthly payment from the dividends from the investment money. And then the trust, if the trust wants to buy a second property, because the trust already owns a property that I sold, because I own my house, I owe about $85,000 on it, but no, $70,000 actually, $70,000 on this house that I purchased 20 years ago, or mortgage or whatever. But anyway, I owe about 70 grand on this house. I know Mac owns his. I don't know Big Chris and the twin owns.
I own everything inside my place.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, now the trust company, you sell the home to the trust company, man, and the trust owns it, right? Yes, you got to live in will. You got to trust. There's instructions that go with the trust, and then there's trustees and who's whatever. And so what happens is, if there's money in that trust, and that financial liquidity goes to these investments, and then the trust company starts to pay the trustees a monthly salary from the dividends that is getting from the stock market investments. See, that's what the Kennedys did.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what the Rockefellers did. Those are the financial secrets that our community, the black community, we don't know about these things.
Nope.
But you know what?
Nope.
We know now.
Yes, sir.
Now's the time
Yep.
to pass it down. I'm 50. I'm over 55. I can
Yeah.
learn every day. Let me tell you what I did here.
Mhm.
Okay, and I got to go, but term life versus whole life.
Whole life,
I'm gonna look at what I have based on our conversation. It's not just for other people to learn; it's for me to pick up some advice too.
Right.
I got
Me too.
builds equity, and I wrote here the HELOC trust.
Yep.
Okay, so those are the three things I'm gonna look up. I'm not gonna tell you when I'm gonna look them up, but it's gonna be about 10 minutes after I punch in tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Plus it's Friday. Hey, listen, man, I'm not gonna do it here. No, sir.
And that's what this is about. Real men, just like steel sharpens steel. We got to sharpen each other and what we know, and we share information. That's why I did the 100 Men for Newburgh too. Back in 2016, we ran 2 years strong. I built this 100 Men for Newburgh, and we had 55 men, men of color, Black and Hispanic men. We had 55 men on our membership rolls, and this is what was part of it, man. It was part of us coming together, 55 guys, once or twice a month, and whether it was something political, whether it was an election, whether there's issues in the community, youth activities, financial literacy, hosting those events. Because
What year was this?
From 2016 to 2018, man.
I wasn't in that. You know why?
Why?
Because I wasn't ready
Okay.
to be around. And this is another problem that we have.
Right.
I wasn't ready to be around men that were smarter than me in a certain section of life. I thought I knew what I was doing. Sometimes we have to humble ourselves to listen to our peers. If we allow ourselves to be humble for just a second, the information you can learn in a second far goes what you don't learn not being there. The only way you can't learn is not being there. And I didn't take advantage of that situation. So
I appreciate you saying
that's
that.
That's
Thank
my part
you
of
for
it.
saying that, man, because Chris, I'm telling you, man, that's really big what you said, because we had security guards from Newburgh Free Academy. We had police officers from NYPD. We had guys that worked in the troubled youth facility. One of the guys was the supervisor for the whole East Coast for all the lockup facilities for troubled youth. So if dudes needed employment and you fit the criteria, he was hooking people up. That was Mr. Newton. That was Nia Newton's dad. Mr. Newton was he's a supervisor for all the so we had bankers, we had guys that worked on Wall Street in our 100 Men. So we have resources, man, among ourselves, and we could share information, man. And then it was like a networking system. And then
we gotta talk. I'm gonna follow you.
Okay.
Again, I hate to cut you off. I gotta go.
Okay.
Go grab me some dinner.
Hey, listen, man, all love with you guys. I'm gonna let Kirk close me out, but I wanted to tell you that I'm gonna link up with y'all. Dallas is up by 19, second quarter. Also, shameless plug. I today decided I'm going to do a listening party for my new blend tape. It comes out October 15th, 2024. I'm going to have a band there, and then we're going to go through about 14 of the cuts off that blend tape. It's something that's never been done before. DJs don't do blend tape listening parties. That's the first time you heard it first right here. It's all love. Hey, I love you. I love you guys like I love me.
Love
Yes,
you.
sir. Love y'all.
I would like to go.
I'm in there. Yeah, too, Chris.
You can go ahead and close us out.
Yes, this was a great episode, guys. We needed this a lot. I still feel like there's much more to talk about. Maybe we could do another, continuation of it. But everybody, please, who tuned in, who will tune in, please comment, subscribe, and share. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with us today. Much appreciated. Much love to everybody. Always remember, keep Jesus first.
Amen.
Yes. Amen.
Give it to you. God bless everybody. Have a good night.
Fellas.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night, fellas. Love y'all, man.
We
Love y'all
out.
too. Love y'all.
Oh.
Yeah, one.
Get us all, Kurt? Still there?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Hey, I wasn't trying to
Hold on.
end the show for you.
Hold on,
I
hold
just,
on.
I don't like to cut. I don't like to cut out. I don't never like to cut out on you. I like to be here to the end.